Hey everyone, welcome back to Art and Alchemy. I recently finished a sketchbook that I've been using for more than a year now, and I'm super excited to share my art explorations from 2022. This video is actually a part 2 of my sketchbook tour. I'll link the part 1 video in the description box, so don't forget to check that out. Now sit back and enjoy the video while I get started on this tour. I first started the sketchbook in May 2021. I wanted to experience a fresh start for the year 2022 even if it was in the old sketchbook. So I created this beautiful spread to start the year on a high note. I used watercolors and color pencils to do this. For the new year, I set some art goals, and one of them was to overcome my fear of sketching and painting portraits. So you'll see a lot of portrait studies in this sketchbook and in a lot of mediums. This one is done in color pencils in a limited color palette. The next one is one of my favorites. There are a lot of aspects I love about this, like the loose painting style, the writing, splatters, and the color palette. I was just so determined to get the hang of portraiture, so these sketches are from a practice session. Prior to this period, I wasn't very bad at sketching portraits, but I wanted to improve and sketch them effortlessly, hence the practice. On the next page, I sketched this beautiful portrait in graphite, and I'm very pleased with how it turned out. I feel that rendering portraits in pencil is the easiest in terms of establishing values and the contours of the face. I created this fun black and white illustration on the right to make the spread look cohesive. This is again a practice session. I created a video about portraits a while ago, and I was trying to figure out the composition of the portraits and was experimenting with color choices before filming the video. These are the portraits I sketched for the video. By this time, I got a good grip on sketching portraits, so I wanted to create a video about things I learned in the process with some tips for beginners. I'll link the video in my description box, so be sure to check that out. I ended up not adding any color to the background as it sort of overpowered the pencil sketches. This is a pen sketch that I did very recently, just a few days ago. I left a couple of pages blank for some reason, so this is me just putting them to good use. Sketching in pen has become my recent obsession, and I had a lot of fun doing this. I flipped back to an empty page yet again to sketch this. This is done in color pencils in a limited color palette. I think I messed her bangs up, but otherwise I like the sketch. I don't know what to say about this. All I remember is I thoroughly enjoyed the process of creating this, but I ended up hating the final result. I still hate it, but this painting serves as a great reminder for me to just have fun with the process and get lost in the joy of creating art. I still remember how good I felt while doing all this line work and splattering the paint. I went all in with the splatters, and you can clearly see that I overdid the splatter part because I was having a lot of fun. Alright, moving on. This painting is my first time trying drawing ink. I somehow expected it to work and look like watercolors, but the ink sort of seeped into the paper, creating all these marks, so I couldn't blend it at all. This painting is yet another one of my favorites. I just love how it turned out. I enjoy sketching outfits sometimes, and I had so much fun painting this. Next up, we have this portrait sketch done in color pencils in a limited color palette. It's kind of funny how I choose colors for such sketches, cause I look for color pencils that are sharp, so I can just dive right into sketching. The next page is an incomplete spread. I wanted to paint these florals in gouache. I left the sketch here thinking I'd come back to paint it, but I never got the spark or urge to paint it. This is just an experimental painting. I used a palette knife to apply a thick layer of gouache paints to the paper. It was very satisfying to apply paint with a palette knife. If I ever had to recreate something of this sort, I'd refrain from making such doodles on top of it. Here, I sketched these portraits with my Prismacolor pencils on top of brown and blue underpainting I did with brush pens. The color pencils did not show up as bright as I expected them to, so that's a fail. Next up, we have a spread with random doodles that came to my mind. I was going for a magical and eccentric vibe, so I added a lot of sparkles and stuff. Here I created this loose watercolor background using wet on wet technique and painted a portrait in gouache on top. The next painting is done with coffee. I was having a slow morning where I got to spend good time in my sketchbook before the workday started. I just love how beautiful coffee stains look. The next spread is just a bunch of doodles of things that make me happy. I also love the font I used in the center. I loved coffee painting so much that I created another one. This was a very quick painting session of about 20 minutes. This is one of those paintings you do in a typical rush hour. I had a tight schedule when I painted this, so it's very loose and messy. The next is one of my favorite portraits. I wanted to paint it in watercolors, but the sketch looked so delicate and beautiful in pencil that I decided to leave it right here. I also didn't draw anything on the right, thinking it would steal the attention from this portrait. This is a rough sketch I prepared for a gouache painting I did earlier. I like to plan my paintings out in my sketchbook before I start the final piece. The next few spreads that follow are of my figure sketching practice. Before this practice, I had struggled a lot with drawing fashion sketches, gesture drawing, and human body proportions. But once I figured the basics out, there was no stopping. I felt confident and could clearly see the improvement in my sketching. This is another quick portrait sketch on the right. This is again a sketch I prepared for painting, which I transferred onto a watercolor paper. This again is one of my favorite paintings done loosely in watercolors and color pencils. I love those carefree brush strokes and scribbles. Okay, so first let's address the sticky note situation. I used it to cover this ugly portrait up. These two sketches are of the same woman. I laid my sketchbook flat on the table when I sketched this portrait. I knew there was something very wrong with it, so I sketched it again, but this time I propped my sketchbook vertically on a tabletop easel, and that was when I could get the sketch to look as close to the reference as possible. This is, by the way, a rough sketch for a watercolor painting which is up on my channel. I'll link it in the description box in case you're interested. The next sketch is again a rough sketch that I am yet to paint in watercolors. This is a rough concept sketch for a painting I did on the occasion of World Environment Day. These are some of the pen sketches. This was my first time using a ballpoint pen for sketching and it was super fun. I fell in love with this medium. Some more pen portraits here. I tried sketching some outfits I saw on Pinterest in this spread. This here is my favorite page from the sketchbook. I absolutely enjoy sketching and painting eyes. They are the most beautiful and fun subject to work on. On the next and last page, we have some more ballpen sketches. That's it for the sketchbook tour, guys. Comment down below which one of these spreads was your favorite. I post a lot of these works on my stories on Instagram, so don't forget to follow me there. I'll leave the link and ID in the description box, so don't forget to check that out. I'm so happy to have finished the sketchbook because I'm too excited to start a new one. Stay tuned and subscribe to my channel because a new sketchbook video will be up very soon. That's it for today's video. Hit the thumbs up button and share with your friends and family. I'll see you in my next video. Bye everyone.